Hello and welcome everybody. I'm Scott Larsen. I'm an integrative chiropractor at the Institute for Health and Healing with Sutter Health. Today I'm going to be talking about some myth-busting weight training issues. I'm going to bust some myths around weight training that I encounter on a frequent, if not daily, part of my clinical practice. When we think about exercise culturally, most of us consider cardiovascular exercise as our exercises, and we sometimes neglect weight training or building muscle strength as part of our exercise routine. To have a holistic, healthy, well-rounded exercise program, you want to incorporate all the aspects of exercise, including cardiovascular, strength training, balance, flexibility, and obviously rest and recovery is an important part of anyone's exercise program. However, most of the guidelines that you hear from, I guess, culture is heavily around cardiovascular exercise, and weight training gets kind of put on the back burner in the form of quote-unquote muscle strengthening activities in the guidelines, as it says. So most people who try and incorporate a new exercise routine in their life are doing it for weight loss. That's not everybody. I recognize that. But a lot of people are trying to exercise to lose weight. If you're doing cardiovascular, let me put this in perspective for you. If you're doing cardiovascular exercise to lose weight, let's say you're running or walking, and you're running or walking to lose weight, it takes about 100 calories to run or walk a mile, give or take, depending on who you are and some different factors. In order to lose 1 pound of adipose tissue or 1 pound of fat, you need to burn about 3,500 calories. And so putting it into perspective, you're going to need to run or walk 35 miles to lose 1 pound of weight of fat or adipose tissue. So I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. In San Francisco, it was my practice. I'd have to run from San Francisco to Palo Alto to lose 1 pound of body weight. That is not reasonable, folks. It's not a bad thing to do cardiovascular exercise, but to do it to lose weight is not a good strategy because you have to go so far. It's not practical. You're doing cardiovascular exercises not with the goal of losing weight, hopefully, but to be healthy and to get the health benefits of being active. Building lean muscle for weight management is actually a reasonable strategy. It doesn't require 35 miles of running for 1 pound of body fat, and it will save you a lot of wear and tear or breakdown of the body. And so we need to build strength. But the problem is, building muscle strength requires doing more than just simple, small corrective exercises. If you've ever been to a rehab program or a physical therapist or a chiropractor and tried to rehabilitate an injury, you're going to be given exercises that are focused on that injury. Those aren't necessarily holistic, big picture exercises that build muscle strength for large swaths of the body. It could be, but most likely it's not. And so to build muscle strength for your large muscle groups, you're going to have to do exercises that require some serious moves that may take some practice. But a lot of people hesitate when I tell them what that might entail, because there are some cultural stigma, some cultural memes out there, I would say, about some of these exercises being bad and being destructive to the body when you do them. So deadlifts, squats, and pressing like a chest press or an overhead press, when I encourage people to consider doing those, they are worried about their knees, worried about their back, and worried about their shoulders. And I recognize that in some cases, being out of control in those exercises can cause damage. But guess what? You're doing those activities on a daily basis. If you're a semi-normal human on planet Earth, you're squatting, you're deadlifting, and you're pressing, and you're doing overhead pressing. So if you learn those skills and train those activities and train those exercises, you're going to build muscle strength, you're going to build lean muscle tissue, you're going to save yourself from losing muscle tissue, you're going to be healthier, you're going to be better able to metabolize blood sugar, your mitochondrial level in those muscles are going to go up, which increases your energy levels and your metabolism. And the list goes on and on for the benefits of strength training. But you're going to need to get over some of the cultural stigma against doing a deadlift, a squat, and a press. So we can do it, but we gotta get over these. So let's talk about squats. When I encourage people to do a squat, they're not everybody, but most people are fearful of their knees. And so a squat is a strength exercise in where the person lowers their hips from a standing position and then stands back up. Typically, you go all the way down until your calves and the back of your legs meet, and then you come back up. That's a squat. There's a million variations of a squat. You can squat into a chair. You can squat halfway down. But in the 60s, there's actually a history here that I find fascinating. There was a campaign against deep squats. And after a few papers were published by a single individual, the American Medical Association, the United States Marine Corps, and many schools across high schools across the country eliminated squatting, especially deep squatting, from their exercise routines. And they encourage people not to do it. And that has persisted to this day. But that's not what the science tells us. The science tells us that the ligaments in our knees, the ones we're scared of tearing, like the ACL, the stress on the ACL, the most stress you're going to incur on the ACL is in the first 4 inches of a squat. So if you've ever sat down into a chair, you're putting stress on your ACL. So it's just not true that doing deep squats is going to tear the ligaments in your knee. If it were true, we would see weightlifters and power lifters sustaining extreme amounts of arthritis and knee tears, but that's not the case. And when science does studies on elite weightlifters and power lifters who sustain loads up to 6 times their body weight, and they go to the bottom of their squat, they have healthy knees compared to you and to me. So when you have knee arthritis, when you have knee pain, the remedy, the ultimate remedy, it may not be where you start, should be being able to do a deep squat. It builds the muscles in your legs, the quads, the hamstrings, the calves, the glutes, and those are the biggest muscles in your body. And so when you build your leg muscles, you're going to get the best effect of doing strength training exercises. So that's a squat. The next thing is a deadlift. When I encourage people to do deadlifts, they're worried about their back. A deadlift is a weight training exercise like a squat where you're going to be lifting up an object off the ground. It could be a bar, could be a dumbbell, could be a kettlebell, could be your backpack filled with books, could be a box in your garage. You're going to lift that off the ground, bring it about parallel to your torso, about hip level, and then you're going to place it back down on the ground. The meme is deadlifts are the worst thing you can do for your lower back, especially if you have a back problem. If you have arthritis, a disc injury, a sprain strain injury, doing deadlifts is going to make it worse. That's the meme. But again, that's not what science is telling us. There's been multiple studies on deadlifts for chronic lower back pain, and the groups who, in those studies, who do the deadlift training do better than exercises that target the core and other specific muscles in the lower back region. So the deadlift is an incredibly powerful exercise that we should all be doing. The next item that I want to cover is the chest and the overhead press. And when I encourage people to do that, they get worried about their shoulders. And so the overhead press is basically, and it could be a chest press too. There's 50 to 100 variations of these exercises, but it's basically pushing a weight away from your body. It could be pushing it straight forward from a supine position or laying down position. You're pushing a weight up, or you could be standing and pushing a weight over your head. You could be sitting down and pushing a weight over your head, but the weight is pressed away from your body until your arms are locked, either overhead or over your chest. And your legs, if you're doing it in a standing position and you're pushing up, are going to be locked. Your lower back is going to be engaged, your abs are going to be engaged, and you're going to be maintaining balance. It's a fantastic exercise. How do we know that doing this helps the shoulders and not harms the shoulders? Well, in athletes who use their shoulders a lot, sustain a lot of shoulder injuries, the rehabilitation is overhead pressing and chest pressing. Volleyball players, baseball pitchers, basketball players, tennis players who sustain injuries, part of their rehab process is doing overhead strength training activities. It's been studied multiple times in different journals and published that athletes who participate in integrating shoulder and low back core exercises perform better in coming out of sustained shoulder injuries. And so to be a well-rounded, holistic person, you need to incorporate some overhead and some chest pressing activities, and it's not going to harm your shoulders. That leads me to my last point of the day, is most people who go to the gym are exercising and not training, and that's okay. What is exercise? So exercise is a physical perform for right now. It's the immediate payoff. So when you go do a workout, you're putting on a stress on your body that satisfies the immediate kind of needs or the immediate goal, the short-term goal of going to the gym or doing an exercise. You're getting hot, you're getting sweaty, you're out of breath, you're pumping your muscles, you're feeling some endorphins going, and you may be incorporating some stretching. But if you're just exercising without a long-term goal, it's not training. So the mindset would be to shift to a training mindset where your performance objectives and your goals are very specific. And so in the context of strength training, so strength training will be specific activities you perform to satisfy the long-term goal. So for example, to be able to lift a 50-pound object over your head may not be where you're at today, but if you're training to get to that goal, that's strength training. That's not exercising, that's training. And they're both good, but I prefer the mindset of training to be better equipped to make it through life. So in order to train, you need to use this very simple model: stress, recovery, adapt. So you put your muscles under a stress, then you spend time recovering, and while you're recovering, you adapt. And then you repeat as you go through the process of training up a skill, training up the ability to do a deadlift, training your squats to increase the weight, training an overhead press. You slowly increase the stress, which then your body has to recover from, and then your muscles and your musculoskeletal system, your neurology, adapt to. It's so cool. So to do that, you need a program/prescription. I've talked about exercise prescriptions in the past. You basically write down the exercise you want to do, the weight you want to lift, how many repetitions you do per set, how many sets you do per week, and then how often you're going to be doing that exercise. So deadlifts, squats, and pressing, like a chest press or an overhead press, are fundamental exercises that should be a part of your exercise prescription with a goal in mind. So what's the hardest part? Well, the hardest part is consistency and being able to continually increase the stress. If you have 3-pound dumbbells that you use for your whole life, it's not bad, but it's not ideal. You're not adapting and you're not increasing the stress on the system over time. So that's my message for the day. You don't want to go into these exercises without some support. Cut the learning curve, talk to somebody, get some help, learn how to do these exercises appropriately, and don't try and do them on your own, because take a lesson. If you want to play golf, take a golf lesson. Don't spend 5 years at the driving range figuring out how to hit your irons and never touching your driver, because every time you do, you hit it off the course. Take a golf lesson. If you want to learn how to deadlift, take a deadlifting lesson. Find somebody who can teach you how to do a deadlift and learn how to do it. Your life is going to be better as you learn the skill, cut the learning curve, and then you're able to train and program that exercise to increase your body's ability to do it. Appreciate your time. Thank you for listening today. Good luck, and contact me if you have questions.